Hi everyone, and welcome to this chapter of Flutter Animations course. This chapter and all the other chapters pretty much in this course are part of a bigger playlist, the link to which you can find in the descriptions of this video. So the videos that I put out in this playlist, at least, they build upon the videos before them. So in this video, we're going to talk about quite a lot of concepts which are new, but also a lot of things that we've already talked about before, such as animation controllers, chained animations, etc. So for those of you who've landed on this video just individually without having followed the rest of the videos, I really recommend that you have a look at the previous videos before following along with this one, just because I'm going to jump over some of the concepts that I've already explained before. So without further ado, let's just get into it. In this video, we're going to talk about polygons and CustomPainter and CustomPaint. And the reason behind that is that a lot of the videos that are to follow in this series build upon this foundation of using custom painters, okay, and custom paints, of course. So let me just show you quickly what we're going to develop. So it's a very simple application. You can see we're drawing a polygon on the screen, which is changing its the amount of sides that it has. So a polygon, you could just say a shape that has different sides, many sides, you could say, okay? And so it's not just like a circle or anything, but it has different sides. So if you break this animation down into its basic components, you can see that something is increasing the number of sides of this polygon. So it goes down to 3, and then it gets up to, I think, about 10 sides, okay? And then there's another animation that is happening in here, which is changing the diameter of or changing maybe the width and height of the shape. Let's just say that for now, okay? So those are two animations, one for the amount of sides and the other one is for the diameter or the width and height of this shape. And the third animation in here is basically doing a little rotation around some axis. Okay, we don't really have to know at the moment which axis or how many axes there are, but just know that there are 3 animations in here that are creating the result that we're seeing on the screen. And this is something that I've said in the previous videos as well, that when you see an animation that feels complex to start with, just have a look at it for a while. This is at least what I do. I just kind of like sit like a crazy person in front of the animation and have a look at how it works. So I try to break it down into its basic components. And if you sit in front of your screen and look at this for a while, you can easily see the 3 components that I just mentioned. One, the sides that are changing. The other one is like the dimensions that are changing. And another one is a rotation that is happening. So all 3 together is creating something that you may think is quite complex, but is not really. And the core of this animation is that polygon, CustomPainter, okay? So in order to be able to create this code that basically creates this type of animation, we need to know how custom painters work in Flutter. And it is so important. This custom painter class is so important that I can't really stress it enough. In many of the videos that are to follow right after this video, we're going to use custom painters a lot. So the widget CustomPaint and CustomPainter that does the actual painting are very, very important to this, not just to this video, but to this course. So I really hope that you don't jump over this particular video that you're watching right now, because it's such a big part of this course that it's best not to jump over it. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and create an example, a Flutter project that we're going to create this example on. So I'm going to get rid of this because after a while, we may get a little bit dizzy looking at this. There we go. I'm just going to get rid of it here. Let's go and bring up the terminal. I'm going to bring it up right here and let's create our example 7. So I'm going to say Flutter create example 7 like this. And then I'm going to specify, I'm going to specify my organization, SE Pixelity like this. All right. Okay, that's really good. And then what we need to do is to just go ahead or just let's say code example 7 like this. And the first thing that I usually do for those of you who know me is to go ahead and create a very simple scaffold in my application. So I'm just going to say main dart. Actually, before doing that, let's just go ahead and change the workspace setting and change the zoom level to 5. I think we usually set it. No one's really complained about this zoom level. I think it's sufficient for most people, even if you're watching on a mobile phone. and let's say FSA as in Flutter Scaffold application. And I think if we look at the results that we have to develop, let me just bring up the simulator. You can see that it doesn't have an app bar. So let's just kill the app bar like this, okay? And then we could just have a body, but just for now, let's leave it as it is. Gonna get rid of that. And let's see. I mean, someone suggested that we use Zen mode, but I really personally don't like Zen mode because by default it goes into full screen. So I'm just gonna get rid of some distractions just like this, okay? Good, so that part is done. Let's just go say select device 14 Pro Max, and I'm just gonna run the application, or at least try to compile it for that simulator, okay? So before we get started, we need to talk a little bit about trigonometry again. We've talked about trigonometry mainly in the first video in this course, but I'm gonna bring it up again. It's just because it's very important. And one of the secrets to drawing shapes, and this is something that not many people will tell you, one of the secrets to drawing any sort of shape is just going back to a circle. Circle is one of the most important shapes that I'm going to actually talk about in this entire course. Pretty much everything that we're going to draw on the screen with like custom painters are going to be based on circles. So circle is a very, very pivotal shape just to have in your toolbox. So to go back to that little shape that we're drawing in here, the polygon, you may be thinking, oh, but how is this drawn? Like, how does it go from a triangle to a rectangle and then goes to a more sides polygon? Well, there is the secret, really, I just told you, is a circle. You need to start by looking at everything as if there were circles. Okay, I'm gonna bring up my iPad screen just like we usually do in this course and try to explain a little bit more what is happening on the screen. So let me just bring up the iPad screen, start drawing a little bit. Okay, so let's say, so here's our iPad. I'm just gonna move around a little bit here in my desk as well, on my desk. So let's say that we want to start drawing something. So we want to start drawing a triangle, let's say, okay? So let's say that this is our canvas, like this. All right, let me hold, there we go. That's our canvas. And you want to draw some sort of a triangle, all right? Then you'd be like, okay, I'll go like this and like this and like this. Well, all right, that's quite good. Let's say then you want to draw a rectangle with 4 sides. Okay, we've already drawn a rectangle. Actually, we have a rectangle with a triangle in it. So those are the 2 shapes. But what if you want to draw something that had 5 sides? Like a rectangle has 4 sides, and then you want to start drawing something that has 5 sides. Then you'd be like, okay, then I will draw something like this, maybe like how to go next then, like this, and then this, and then this. Okay, that's kind of fine. Doesn't look so nice, but kind of looks like a cupcake, which is on its belly. All right, so if this was the top of the cupcake, you kind of get the idea. All right, that's fine. But then you go into 6 sides and 7 sides and 10 sides. So we kind of need to be able to have a rendering engine that can draw, or not a rendering engine, but there's some sort of a shape that can change the amount of its sides. All right, and this is where the secret comes in. So if we have a shape that has at least 3 sides, and then at most n sides, so let's say 3 ... n, then we can create some sort of a reusable class for it. Let me just show you how. So let's go back to this example. Let's say that this is our canvas, okay? Like this. There we go. Now let's say we take the center of this canvas, and then we say, okay, that's the center. Let's just draw a circle around it. Let's see if I can actually do this. Like this, like this. Let me see if the iPad can help me. There we go. And that's the circle, okay? So let's say, okay, this is a hypothetical circle around the center point. Now we want to draw a shape that has at least 3 sides, okay? So a circle is 360 degrees, right? 360 degrees. Now let's say, oh, what was that 6 thing? I didn't mean to write that 6 thing. I don't know what that is, but let me just see if I can somehow erase it. There was a way to do it with Apple Pencil. Let me see, like that. I just want to say degrees, like this, okay? Now, if you say a shape has 3 sides, so what happens if we divide this 360 degrees by 3 to end up with 120? Okay, so that's like 120 degrees for every side. What does that even mean? So let's say that that's our canvas, right? In Flutter, you have your X axis here and your Y axis here. So this is 0 and 0 up here. Let's say that we kind of start, and if you remember from the previous videos that I told you, since the canvas in Flutter is flipped, so this is like the normal canvas when we're talking about geometry and trigonometry, this is X and Y, and this is Z, okay, that goes into the screen. Since the Flutter canvas is kind of like flipped around, I think you could say it's flipped around the X-axis, then your X goes like this and Y goes like this. So and again, we've talked about these before, so I'm not going to mention it again. Then your 0 degrees is kind of here, and then you go into 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and then go to, what is it, 200, is it 180 degrees plus 90 degrees is 270 degrees, right here, 270, and then you go to 360 like this. Did I calculate it right? Something doesn't seem like, but anyways, it's just at 90, I think so at least, okay? My math is sometimes horrible. Let me just see, 180, let's just write it like this, 180 plus 90, and yes, this is 270, right? So this 270 is fine right here. So if we then say that, okay, we divide the number of degrees that we have, which is 360, by the number of sides that we want to draw, then we end up with what? We end up with an angle in here that is 120 degrees right here that I'm drawing, okay? Then if we take this circle that we have and divide the number of possible angles into 3 of those angles, each of which is 120 degrees. So let's say that this is 90 degrees, all right? And this is 180 degrees. So 120 degrees is kind of like, it's kind of like here, right? I would say, right? So so we start from here, right there, that's the start, okay? Then we say, okay, from, if this was a hypothetical line in here, then we go 120 degrees here, okay? Like this. And then we know that there's 2 more sides. So we say from here on, also we take another 120 degrees from this point that I'm drawing right here. We say we need to go 120 degrees. Let's say that we kind of maybe end up like here, okay, like this, and then this is 120 degrees. Now I know that my angles aren't really right, but you kind of get the idea, okay? And then we say, okay, and then from this point on is also 120 degrees. So now we've divided the 360 degrees into 3 parts because we want to draw a polygon that has 3 sides, okay? So what we do then is, if we take these lines that are the resulting lines after dividing the 360 degrees into 3 parts for the 3 sides, then we can take this point in here and then this point down here and this point up here and connect them together. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Then we get our triangle. That's it, really, okay? And if we do this same exercise, so let me just try to fast kind of draw our canvas again, and then the center, and then a circle. Let's see if I can get the circle. There we go. You kind of get the idea, okay? The circle is a little bit bigger than a canvas, but I think you get the idea. It should be in the canvas. And then we say, okay, now we want to draw a shape that has 4 sides, all right? Sides like this. Then we say, okay, the available space is 360 degrees, okay? And then we divide this by 4, then we end up with 90 degrees. So 90 degrees for each side. Then we say, okay, so we start from here, like usual, on the circumference of the circle. Then we say, okay, we go 90 degrees. This one's very easy. Then we go here on the circumference, then another 90 degrees, we go here, and another 90 degrees, then we go in here, okay? And remember, angles in Flutter grow like this, okay? So they go counterclockwise, plus. When you go plus, you go counterclockwise. Oh, sorry, no, you go clockwise, not counterclockwise, actually. So this is clockwise, going like this, okay? So if we are going plus, then you would pretty much go like, wait a minute, no, yeah, you go like this, okay? So that's how plus works basically in Flutter. So now that that is done, because before we jump over that fact, it's because in trigonometry, when we're talking about plus 90 degrees, then you kind of go like this, all right? But anyways, so now we've ended up with these 4 points on the circumference of the circle. Then if you connect them together like this, and like this, then you end up with a perfect triangle. All right, that was great. So you kind of get the idea that if you just divide your 360 degrees, like 360 degrees in here, and you divide it by the number of sides, then you get the number of, then you get the angle that you have to divide your circle with and get your sides from. So if you were to, for instance, say, okay, I have a shape that is 10 sides, then you say 360 degrees divided by 10, then you get 36 degrees. And if you just go on your circle, let's just do this canvas thing again, like this, and then you draw your circle. Gosh, horrible. Let me see if I can do this again, by the way. That was terrible. Like this. I want to kind of get a perfect circle. I forget to hold my Apple Pencil down to get perfect shapes. Like this, and then like this, and like this. Let's see. Boom. Okay. So now we have 360 degrees divided by 10. Then you get 36 degrees. So, I mean, it's very difficult to draw a 36-degree angle for me. I don't know, because this is like 90 down here. Then 36 kind of going to be like this probably, and then another 36 here, and another one here, and another one here, another one. So you kind of get the point. Then you start drawing like lines between these points, then you will get your 10 sides for your shape. Okay, so what we need to do now is to go ahead and kind of get this drawing in place. So we kind of need a class that can take care of this for us. And the way to do that with Flutter is using CustomPaint widget. CustomPaint widget, as we're going to soon see, it takes a class, which is its painter, that subclasses CustomPainter. So the widget itself is called CustomPaint, and the class that does the drawing for CustomPaint is CustomPainter. Okay, and we've already looked at this actually before, so we don't have to explain it too much. So let's get rid of this. And let's go ahead in our application and create a body for this scaffold. I'm just going to say body is custom paint, just like this, paint. And you can see it just says, all right, I'm fine. But you have to give it 2 parameters. One parameter is the child, which is the actual widget that takes the space, because custom paint by default has no size. So in order to give it some size, you have to create a child that takes some space. All right. So what we're going to do is to say, let's say that, let me bring up the iPad again. Let's say that this is our screen. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so this is our screen. Then we're going to say, okay, we want to go to the center in here and then take the width of the screen, which is this part right here. Okay, so let's say this is width. And then we take the width, so take the entire available width in here, and the height should be the exact same as the width. So let's say this is also width equal to the height. All right, so then we end up with like a perfect rectangle in the middle here. All right, so this is what we want to do, and the perfect widget for that is of course sized box. So let's say the child in here is sized box, and the width is going to be media query. So let's say media query of context, and then we're going to say size width. All right, and this can't be a constant anymore, so let's just remove that. And also let's say the height is exactly the same in here. Okay, boom, and then we can save this. And of course our simulator is iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm just going to bring it up. It kind of looks like this at the moment, so it has pretty much no content. All right, and what we want to do is to go ahead and actually create the painter for this guy. So let's say that we have a custom painter. So let's say we could call it Polygon. So we say class Polygon. I think we write it like this. Extends custom painter. Okay. And we could just keep it like this, and let's just add the 2 missing overrides in here. Okay. So we don't actually paint anything at the moment to do. And also in here, for now, we just say true. Okay. But we're going to implement the proper version of this function. And to be honest, we could actually go ahead and do that now. So the first thing we could take care of is to tell this polygon how many sides it has. Okay, so let's say final in sides, and let's create a constructor for this. And maybe we could make this a required name parameter. So let's say required like this. All right. And then we could go into should repaint and tell it that as long as the number of sides for this polygon are the same as the previous one, then it doesn't have to redraw. But if the number of sides have changed, then we have to redraw. Okay, so let's say we say old delegate is polygon, and the old delegate sides are not equal to the current number of sides that we have, then it has to redraw. Okay, and as I mentioned, I've already talked about should repaint in the previous videos before, so I'm not gonna explain it again. So now our job is to go ahead and implement this paint. And remember, the custom painter that we have in here is inside a custom paint, which is taking this amount of size basically. It has a width and it has a height which is equal to the width, and we need to just pass that custom painter to this custom paint. So let's say painter is a polygon like this, and then we say the number of sides, let's just say 3. So we start with a triangle. All right, so we can go ahead in here and start doing the implementation. So in custom painter, we usually work with paths. So we get this canvas object in here, which has many different methods, but one of the methods, very useful methods that it has, is actually takes a path and a paint object. So it says, given this canvas, give me something to draw on it. And this something to draw on is usually your path. So think of a path as kind of like an empty canvas. So you're kind of like, you just imagine a canvas. Given this canvas, you kind of want to draw on it. So you could draw your shape in the path and then reflect the path on top of the canvas. Okay, so if you look here at canvas, draw a path in here, you can see it takes a path and a paint. So before we start with the paint, let's just, before we get started with the path, let's take care of the paint. So we say final paint, and paint is kind of like your pencil or your brush. Okay, so we say it's a paint. Then we use the cascade operator in here, I think it's called, and to give it some color. So we say color is colors.blue. And then we give it a style, and we say style is painting style stroke. Okay, because you see, I think we have fill. Yeah, we have fill and stroke. And stroke is kind of like you're drawing the outer boundaries of your shapes. You're not actually going to fill them. Okay, so if I bring the iPad screen again, let's go and create a new document in here. So if I here, let's say that we have a triangle. This is how you would draw a triangle with stroke. Okay, and if you want to draw the same triangle with fill, it would literally like go like this and literally fill the inside of it for you. Kind of like try to do that, at least given the properties that you give it. Sometimes it can't do that because your path isn't closed, but you kind of get the idea. So that's stroke and this is fill. Okay, and from the animation that we saw earlier, we have to do a stroke, right? Because we didn't actually fill the insides of that polygon. So we say it's stroke like this, and also we give it a stroke cap. And we say stroke cap has to be round. Okay, so I'm gonna actually explain what the stroke cap kind of means. So let's say round for now, round, and then also we say stroke width is 3 for now. Okay, so that's our paint object. So let me just explain the stroke cap quickly for those of you who are curious about it. And this is something that not a lot of people explain, so I'll start to just explain it. So let's say that this is the triangle, okay, that we have in here that we want to draw, or any kind of shape with any amount of sides. It doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily have to be a triangle. And let's just put a little magnifier in here. So let's say this is our magnifier, and we're looking at this edge in here, okay, where the two sides meet. So if we magnify that like 1,000 times and put it kind of under the microscope, if you say that your stroke cap is, let's go in here and delete that stroke cap dot, you have square, but you can see like this, and then you have round, and then you have square. If you say that it is but, okay, then how it will actually look like in this connection, it kind of, if you zoom into it, it will be like, oh, the side comes here like this, and then the next side starts like this. Okay, so you kind of in this point where these two joints meet, you kind of see a little bit of a disconnect between, like it's not smooth. Okay, so that's like the butt stroke cap. And then there's another one which is square, which you can see in here. Is kind of like, it's kind of like butt, you could say, but you need to fill it to see the difference. It's kind of difficult to explain, but you will see the difference when you draw them. But you draw very big shapes with big stroke widths, then you can actually see the difference. But in this particular case, I would say butt and square are kind of gonna look the same for the end result that we're gonna get in our application, but in some other applications it may be different. But if you do the round one, then what happens is that you kind of go like this, and the end of this particular side will be round, and the next ones also will be round in here. So you kind of get like a smooth round angle at the end right here. Okay, and it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. In this particular example, it doesn't matter that we're saying stroke cap round. It's just something that you get used to when you start drawing a lot on the screen, simply because it looks a lot nicer in most cases. Okay, but I think in this case it doesn't matter that much, but it's just out of principle we're gonna go with round anyways. Okay, then we need to create a path. So now that we have the path and we have a paint, let's just, before we forget, we say canvas, draw path, and we have the path and paint, and that's it. So let's go to our application and have a look at what it looks like. And you can see in here, there's nothing on the screen, so we can't see anything. And simply because we have an empty path. So this path has no shape in it. All right, so what we need to do is to get started by actually calculating the center at which we want to put the center of our circle. So it's going to be that center that we've already talked about. Okay, so given this canvas with this size, let's find a center. Again, something we've done before. So I'm going to say final center is equal to size width divided by 2 and size height divided by 2. Some people just, in order to ensure that the shape, the canvas is square and it has the same width and height, they just go size width divided by 2 for both the width and the height, kind of. But in here, we're just going to take size width and height, assuming that the width and height are exactly the same. All right, good. So now let's say that the radius, the radius we're going to get to soon, but I wonder if you should calculate that now or put it for later. Let's just put it for later. Now, what we want to do is to get the angle between each side. Again, remember that 360 degrees divided by the number of sides that I explained before. So let's just do that. So we say final angle is, and we say we have 2 multiplied by pi. So let's go and import Dart math show pi like this, and we have 2 multiplied by pi because this gives us 360 degrees, and then we want to divide this, so like this, and we want to divide this by the number of sides. All right, that gives us our angle, which is a double value. All right, so what we need to do now is to go ahead for the amount of sides that we have gets the angle. So let's just explain this on the iPad screen, is a little bit easier. So let me bring up, I'm gonna have to move around a little bit. So this is our canvas, okay? And again, this is our circle. Let's see if I can get a kind of a perfect circle in between here, kind of like this. We start here, we wanna draw a triangle with 120 because 360 degrees divided by 3 is 120, right? 20 degrees in here. So we start at 0 degrees in here, and then we say this is 90 down here, 180 in here, so 120 is kind of like here, okay, kind of. So we say this is 120 degrees. Okay, so now we want to get, so we know that we have 3 sides. And if we say, okay, 3 sides is 0, the indexes for them is 0, 1, and 2. So these are our sides put in an array like this. And then we say, okay, we have the angle, which is 220 degrees. Then we can multiply each side index by that angle in order to get the final angle. So let's say we have 0, 1, and 2, these are our sides. The angle is 120. So if we say 0 multiply by 120, then we get 0 degrees. So that's our starting angle. 1 multiplied by 120 degrees is 120. And then 2 multiplied by 120 is 240. So these are our angles, 0, 120, and 240. Okay, so 120 is here, and then let's just say 240 is here, 240. Okay, so if we take the number of sides that we have and start with 0 and multiply each of those indexes by the angle that we have in here, then we get all the angles that are going to end up on the circumference of the circle in order for us to draw our shape. Okay, got it? So let's go in here and create some sort of a how do you say, maybe an iterable. So we say final angles is list, and we generate, and we say, okay, we have these number of sides, and then for every index, so we say 0, 1, 2, multiply that by the angle. All right, and then the result of this, you'll get a list of double, which are your angles. All right, and then let's just calculate the radius of our circle, the encircling circle here. So the radius, as we've already talked about it, is the width of this canvas, which is like this, divided by 2, which ends up being in here. Okay, so let's say final radius is size width divided by 2. Okay, so the first thing we need to do now is to, because you see we have a path, but this path has a brush that is kind of like in the air. So the brush hasn't really touched the path yet. So what we need to do is to move the brush to this point, which is angle 0. Okay, and the way to do that, if you remember from the previous videos, is that in order to get the x, so let's put comment in here, on the circumference of this circle, to get the x, you have to say center x plus radius multiplied by cosine of angle, and then y is center y plus radius multiplied by sine of angle. We've already talked about this in the first video, so I'm not going to explain this again. Okay, so this is the formula to get the x and y position of the points on the circumference of a circle given an angle and a center point. We have the center point, we have all the angles, we know that the first angle always starts at 0, so we assume that, we say, okay, it always starts at 0, so let's just go ahead and say that path move to, okay, so we say the brush has to move to this point, then we say center dot dx plus radius multiply by cosine of 0 degrees. Okay, and cosine and sine come from dark math as well, so we say cosine and sine like this. And then before I save, I'm just going to go and write the code for this as well. There we go, and put a comma to get the formatting right. So now we moved to this point on the circle. Okay, so we move the brush, so the brush is on the canvas now, pressed down on the canvas at this point, but nothing has happened really after this. Then what we need to do is to go through all the angles that we have. We say final angle in angles like this. All right, and then we just say take the current position of the brush and then draw a line to this new point. And you see it's the same exact point, it's just that the angle has changed, and the angles we've already calculated. All right, now last but not least is very important, because you see now the brush has gone, so the brush went here to this point, then it went down here, so it drew a line. It was like, let me actually draw it. So it was like, okay, I'm here right now, I'm gonna draw a line, then I'm gonna draw another line, and then it stops there. Okay, because those were our only angles. Now what happens then is that this shape is enclosed. So closing a shape means to take the current position of the brush and take it to the original position by drawing a straight line to it like this. All right, so then you get your closed path, which is your final shape. So let me put the Apple Pencil back, and then let's go in here and say we want to close the path close like this, and then we can go back here. Let me just do a little bit of resizing and bring up our simulator. So if I then go ahead and say I want to save, there we go. Now we get our shape on the screen. Okay, isn't that awesome? It's really cool. So what is happening then is that we got a polygon in here. So we can actually ask it to change the number of sides. So let's say 4. There we go. You see how beautiful that is? You can actually see it's dividing the circle into 4 sides. So it's like, okay, 0 degrees. Then I go here, then I go here, here, and close the shape. So if we didn't have the path closed, maybe it still works. No, it doesn't. You see the final line isn't drawn. So that's why we're doing the path close. Okay. And then if you go say, okay, give me 5 sides, that's fine. Yeah, I'll give you 6 sides. That's completely fine. 7. All right. And 10. It's also fine. You can say 100 will be almost like a circle, I would say. You can see it's almost like a perfect circle. If you say 1,000 or 50, you kind of see that it is made out of sides. If 30, 20, you can see all the sides. It's awesome. Okay, so we have our polygon now. That's great. What we need to do is to go ahead and create all these crazy animations that we were seeing on the screen. Okay, so we need some animation controllers, and we need to perhaps also have some animations, not just controllers. So let's go to this homepage and convert this to a stateful widget like this. Then what we're going to do is to go ahead and create our controllers and animations. So we need one controller and one animation for the number of sides. Okay, so the number of sides are going to change, I think, from 3 to 10, and then 10 all the way back to 3. So it's kind of like going to reverse. If you remember, the original animation looks like this. You can see it goes all the way to 10 and then goes all the way back to 3. Okay, and it also has some sort of a bouncing effect. So let's just create the animation for that. I'm going to get rid of this. So let's say that we have a final controller in here. So we say final animation controller like this, and it's called sides controller. Then we have a final animation of int of the number of sides animation like this. All right. Then what we're going to do is to go into the dispose. Let's go into dispose in here. Before we forget, we're going to say sides controller dispose. All right. And then we go into init state like this. And after the call to super, then we're going to create the controller. So we say sides controller is an animation controller like this controller with a vsync of this, and we need to change this guy to a ticker provider state mixin, which we've already talked about before, so I'm not going to explain again. So with ticker provider state mixin like this. Okay, and can't be used as a setter. Final blah blah, the final variable size confirm must, well, this can't be final, right? These need to be late and late like this. All right, and we're going to set the duration for this guy to 3 seconds. All right, and then let's go ahead and create the actual animation, which is the sides animation. Remember, animations are tied to controllers, so we say side animation is equal to, and then we say we create an int tween. So int between, remember that it's like we're going from 3 to 10 sides, and then we depend this animation on our animation controller. Okay, very easy. Int tween, right? And it gives us an animation of int. Great. So that's our sides controller. And we can already actually start testing this out. So before we forget, let's go into our did change dependencies in here. Then we say sides controller, repeat, and then we say reverse true. So it has to repeat, and it also goes in reverse when it's done with its animation. Let's go ahead and put this CustomPaint into let's put it also in the center. So let's put it in center and have a look at how it looks like. All right, so it's in the center with these amount of sides at the moment, but the amount of sides are in this animation at the moment, so we need to change this soon. Let's go and put this I would say let's put this center in or maybe put this into a animation builder. Let's say animated builder, sorry. Let's wrap the CustomPaint with animated builder. All right, and then we say the animation is a listenable, I think it's called listenable.merge, but we don't have more than one animation at the moment, but we're going to soon have 2 more animations. That's why I'm creating this listenable merge at the moment. All right, so that's there, and it's complaining that we don't have the builder. So let's say the builder like this. All right. And in the builder, let's just go ahead and take this custom paint. So let's say we have this custom paint and drag it out, and then we say we return this custom paint. And the sides, then we can go into our sides animation and say dot value. All right, let's see if this even works. There we go. Now we're getting our animation. You see it's 3 and then 4 all the way up to 10, and then it reverses back to 3. Okay, good. We have the sides animation now. All right, and this I mean, it's one step forward, but it's really still not there yet. Okay, the next thing that we need to develop in here is this radius change. So you can see the radius of this, or the diameter, even the width and height of this canvas that encompasses this circle, which draws these paths, is changing in this animation, but in here is constant because it's always taking the width and height. So we need some sort of an animation controller and an animation that changes the width and height for us. Okay, so let's go ahead and we just call it radius controller, but you can call it maybe width and height controller, whatever you want. So let's say animation controller, and we say radius controller, and then we have a late animation double of radius animation. Before we forget, we go into dispose and we say radius controller dispose. This is a habit that I have. Before we forget things, we need to dispose of them. Radius controller, and we say repeat reverse true, like this. Okay, and then we go and create the actual radius controller. So let's say a radius controller, and it takes 3 seconds, and then we create the radius animation in here. And let's say it's a tween that goes between 20, and then let's say it goes to 400. Okay, and then we say animate. Actually, before we do that, before we do animate, let's just chain this. Oops, chain, and let's put some commas in here to get the formatting right. And then we have a curve tween, and we want this to bounce in and out. All right, so as we're changing the radius, then we kind of want it to bounce in and out at the end. And this is something, the bouncing is something that you can see in here. Let's see. Did you see that? It's very difficult to see, but like here you can see it. It bounced when it kind of like went to its lowest point. All right, and that's what we're doing this. So now that we have that, let's go merge it into our listenable. So we say we have our radius controller as well. Then in here, instead of doing this dance, let's see here, width and height, then we're gonna take our radius animation. So we say radius animation, oops, has an underscore in the beginning, radius animation dot, it didn't, here, dot value for both the width and the height, like this. And I'm just gonna restart the entire application, have a look at how it looks like. There we go. You see the bouncing effect? Do you see it? Great. So we're one step closer. It's very similar, very, very similar. It's just that the rotation is not there. So let's go ahead and create a rotation animation controller and a rotation animation. All right. So we go ahead and we say that we have a late animation controller in here, and we say rotation animation or rotation controller. Okay. And then we have a rotation animation. And this rotation is just gonna go from 0 to 360 degrees within 3 seconds. That's really it. And then go back. So it's gonna repeat and it's gonna reverse. Okay. So we say it takes also 3 seconds. And then we say our rotation animation is a tween that goes from 0 to 2 times pi. And then we're gonna chain this. Let's say dot chain. And we say a curve tween. All right. And we say it is gonna ease in and out. So we say curves ease in and out like this. And then we animate the what do we call it? Rotation controller like this. All right. And let's put a comma in here. Okay. For some of you who are pedantic, you may want to put a comma in there as well to get the formatting quite correct in here. Okay. So now that we have the rotation controller, before we forget, let's dispose of it. So we say rotation controller dot dispose like this. And then we go ahead and say rotation controller repeat and reverse, merge it in here. And we say rotation controller, rotation controller like this. And then what we need to do is to go ahead and add a transform to this let's see what we have. We have the custom paint. Let's put it inside a transform. So we say wrappable widget, transform. Okay, we've already talked about transform and how it works before, so I'm not gonna explain it all from the beginning. Let's say the alignment is center. Again, alignment is something I've explained a lot, and it's one of the key points of using transform. So please just don't jump over the previous videos because they're so important. Okay, and how this alignment is kind of like a pivot point. All right, and we want to pivot it from the center of the canvas. And let's say the transform itself, transform is a matrix for identity. So we start with identity, and then we rotate all the we say it rotates, rotate X, and that's going to be our rotation. And then we do a rotate Y and rotate Z. So all the three, how do you say, axis, all right? And let's see how it looks like now, and let's see how this looks like. This is like how we should develop it. So this is like the ending or the final product, and this is what we have on the right-hand side. So let me just change the size of this and have a look here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna restart the application. There we go. That's it. We got the final product. So it's doing the exact same thing as this guy is doing. All right. And that was it really. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. These videos that we're doing right now may not look important to you, but they're very important for all the more advanced videos that we're gonna develop in the rest of the Flutter animation series. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If my work is helping you in any ways, please do join my channel by pressing the join button on my channel, and please do subscribe. And if you can, please do press the thanks button at the bottom of this video to support my community work. Thank you, and see you in the next video.